Hello and welcome back to Why Geopolitics Matter podcast version. This is the second episode that we record, and today we're going to talk about three main topics, and at the end we're going to have a special section. We're going to start talking about the Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict. After that, the agreement signed by Canada and Australia on critical minerals. And at the end, China and their GDP targets announced this year. Stay until the end. Updates regarding the Iran-US-Israel conflict. So let's start with Afghanistan and Pakistan. Antoine, can you take over?
Yes, absolutely. So the main issue between both Pakistan and Afghanistan is mainly regarding their border. So it's called the Round Line, and both countries clashed several times along the border. One of the biggest problems from Islamabad is that Taliban, since the return of the Taliban in 2021, Islamabad denounced a couple of times Kabul because it says that Kabul is protecting Pakistani Taliban from the TTP, so mainly the Talibans, the Pakistani Talibans, and they are directly accused of attacks against Pakistan. Multiple bombings, multiple terrorist attacks have been targeting Pakistan, and mostly from the TTP. So all the tensions resides in the ethnic tensions between both countries, and also in the border disputes between the two countries, because this line, the Duran line, divides directly the Pashtun region, and the Pashtun fighters and all the Pashtun leaders are particularly influenced in the Taliban movement. So the recent tensions are directly due to attacks from Pakistan on TTP fighters in Afghanistan, which riposted, of course, and retaliated by attacking the northwest Pakistan. Of course, Afghanistan always denied any implications with the TTP and always say that Pakistan was supporting regional Islamist state group, such as the ISKP, so the Islamic State in the Khorasan province, which has been particularly influenced in Afghanistan, and was clashing directly with the Taliban government. So situation is very complicated. It's also complicated to see full resolve of the tensions. I saw recently that Taliban government said that they were done with the war because they clashed where they wanted to clash, and it was over for them. They were ready to move on to something else. But I believe that Islamabad is completely ready to go on I wouldn't say full scale war, but definitely continue to attack the Taliban fighters in Afghanistan.
Yeah, there was some a tenuous ceasefire in October that resolved, not resolved, but at least gave a little bit of breathing room for both countries to kind of come together and start talking with each other. I read somewhere that Qatar was also, as peacemakers that they are, have been going in and trying to get people to start talking to each other. India hasn't really moved into the fight as well. It's kind of keeping farther back. They have their own problems against Pakistan, but so they're not directly involved. But a lot of people in some of the reporting that I read was that things could escalate even further in the region if India starts to get involved, especially with their feuds with Pakistan. Another thing that I saw was that the United Nations has estimated that more than 100,000 people were displaced. And with so many things going on in the region, it's going to be really hard for people to stay safe out there and try to find the right resources to maintain their lifestyle. So a lot of what's going on is just making things even worse. It could spill over into the Middle East, could spill over farther south Asia areas. So just lots of things to keep looking out for if things really blow up past where just the border skirmishes are and Kabul.
Also, there's a problem because groups such as the CCP are directly linked to informal sources of income mainly with mineral trades, gold trades, and all that. And Afghanistan has a lot of minerals, and that's probably one of the biggest resource that the country has. So this is something that we'll definitely have to look out in the future.
There's also the question of how long this could last, right? We know that Pakistan has good military capabilities. They have one of the biggest armies in Asia. And on the other hand, we have Afghanistan, which don't have that much capabilities, but are very good with guerrilla warfare. And we know that they are able to keep that for quite some time. If we look back at the U.S. in Afghanistan, they're able to pull out several critical like hits on U.S. military. So my question is, do you think or do you see a year or less than that?
I would say probably more, because also one of the issues would be social. Most of the most of the boys in Pakistan are actually not going to school, but they are going to Islamic schools, and it is a way of radicalism directly, which is which benefited the Taliban movements both in Pakistan
Mhm.
and in Afghanistan, and these schools could be um, these schools can be directly linked to, I would say, I would say the Gulf monarchies for their income. So it's very complicated as well to see if solution will be found between the two countries. It will have to be probably social, but as well political. So
Mhm.
in the coming years, I don't know, because once again, the one of the biggest problem is the Duran line, which has been drawn by centuries ago. So very complicated to see a
Yeah.
solution, at least in the coming year. Even though there can be an ease in the tensions, but we'll we'll definitely see how it's gonna evolve in the coming month first, and then in the first year.
Right now, we would be in the eighth day of the first strikes, let's say. Donald Trump got asked about the conflict, if he was going to intervene somehow. And his answer was that he gets really, 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 really well with the Pakistani leader, that he has great respect for him, and that he's doing very well so far. So, yeah, at least regarding the question of is Trump going to do something about it with everything going on in Iran? And I think he has his hands full for the moment.
He probably doesn't want to get bogged down with Afghanistan again because a lot of U.S. Citizens aren't really interested in getting involved in that part of the air. Already dealt with that for 20 years and we crashed
Mhm.
out of it poorly. Um, in the Biden administration. So it isn't it doesn't he doesn't want his name attached to that, and that's politics for him. So yeah, he's probably more interested in gaining points and not joining something that's just a uphill battle.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Antoine, for briefing us on Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict. Now we're going to move over to our second topic, which is the agreement signed by Australia and Canada. Um, it was signed on March the 5th, meaning last Thursday. So Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, traveled all the way to Australia to address the parliament there. And this visit is part of a bigger trip that he's doing throughout Asia. He also talked to the leaders in Japan and in India. And in his speech in Canberra, addressing the parliament, he conveyed the same message that he did back in Davos, which is pretty much that countries that are not superpowers, that are middle powers, or just smaller countries should cooperate and should come together to, let's say, counterbalance. And I just want to take one of the lines of his speech. I just want to highlight it. He said, In a world of great power rivalry, middle powers have a choice: compete for favor or combine foreign strength. And as he's saying this, he announces that Australia and Canada signed this agreement. What is it about? On critical minerals, cooperation on critical minerals. Let's remember, right now, there is a global critical mineral race. And just very quickly, let's remember what critical minerals are. For example, we have lithium, cobalt, nickel, uranium, and they are part of they are essential to a country's economy or the defense sector or the energy sector. That's why they are considered critical minerals. They are strategic assets and not just commodities anymore. So they they're vital for electric vehicles, batteries, semiconductors, which are super important, renewable energy systems, and defense technologies. So I just want to highlight that these critical minerals or securing them is very directly linked to defense technologies too. All right. And so that means that what's the picture currently of critical mineral supply? We have China being in the dominant position. They have, if we talk about market share, they have about 85 to 90% of the critical minerals processing infrastructure, which creates vulnerabilities for Western countries and the rest of the world. They are very dominant in battery supply as well, and in the processing and refining capacity. Now we go back to the deal. This strategy of, let's say, friend shoring it's very convenient and reassuring as well, because we have Canada and Australia. They are politically aligned partners. They are stable democracies, of course, resource rich. All right. So what is expected of this deal? They want to increase their capabilities in the exploration, the exploitation, but also mainly in the processing and refining, which is the weakness from Western countries, let's say. They also have the idea of having more power over the market of commodities and being able to maybe prevent some strategic manipulation, which, let's say, the example, China could use their market share in minerals to have a geopolitical leverage. So let's say by imposing export restrictions, which would make are the kind of things that make the market so volatile. So they want to avoid any big fluctuations, any pricing shocks. And it's also good for technological competition. Being able to produce your own technology and your own batteries in the future, right? Not in the coming or in the immediate future, but more like in the long run. I see this kind of agreement happening more and more, and we could even see the situation of Argentina and Chile, Bolivia joining this kind of initiatives. So I think it's a very reassuring move from Mark Carney for Canada and for Australia as well, trying to counterbalance that, the leverage that the big powers could have over the rest of the world.
I could also add that it's a very pragmatic move to do and to make sure to have connections at a moment where great powers or more and more, I would say more and more complicated to analyze. If you look at the US, they started Iran, they started Venezuela. They might start Cuba in the coming weeks or month. So it's a way to reassure middle powers and to make sure that at least there's a certain level of security between everyone.
But not only that, but like being a collective of the middle power nation states is going to be really important going forward. Having those partnerships are really important between those nations because they hope to kind of create a resilient and a diversified global supply network
Sure.
because we've already seen what happens when there isn't good pipelines, when things do get disrupted, when there's choke points that are cut off in the Strait of Hormuz, when you're not able to export anything because of a global pandemic. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to have like a global network of getting supplies from different places. And with Canada and Australia having such a large amount of critical minerals at their disposal, they can be major players in this. So I think like they know what their power is, and being able to make those relationships is going to be really important going forward, especially when the larger powers are a little bit more unsettled.
Now, I mentioned very briefly China, which will be our third main topic. Now, Meredith, can you talk to us a little bit more about these announcements that the Chinese government made?
Yes, it looks like China's leadership has convened the annual meeting of the National People's Congress, and they announced a 4.5 to 5% growth target for 2026. This is the lowest growth target since 1991. This is a strategic shift from export-led growth to high-quality growth, which is centered around high-tech industries and structural reform. Shifting away from low-end manufacturing and towards more advanced sectors, the leaders hope they will be more resilient to external shocks for the new five-year plan emphasizing consumption and innovation through 2030. What their main emphasis is to boost household consumption, stabilize the real estate market, and expand investment into advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and high-end manufacturing. So at the same time, leadership has reiterated the importance of technological self-sufficiency and continuing a multi-year strategy to reduce the dependence on foreign supply chains and strengthen China's domestic industrial base. The Chinese premier has also said that there's a lot of pressures within the demographics of the country, which includes an aging population, weak property sector, and domestic demand is very weak. There was a severe slump in the housing market, which ate into the household wealth, and a stagnant wage growth has left consumers even more wary of spending. So people are barely making money, and they're definitely not spending it. They're holding on to it. So in order to have economic growth, you got to spend money. So this announcement is important because the Congress provides insights on the Chinese policymaking priorities and the strategic direction. Although the Congress itself is largely formalizing the decisions made by the Communist Party leadership, the meeting reveals how Beijing is interpreting current economic conditions and the allocation of political and financial resources. So by focusing on technology development and industrial policy and domestic consumption, Chinese leadership is prioritizing economic resilience and technological competitiveness over the short-term growth acceleration. So lots of economic speak, but what they're really saying is that we are trying to pull back how much we're anticipating growth because they don't know what's going to happen in the future. Trump has put a moratorium on tariffs on China for a year, but next month they're going to be Xi Jinping and Trump are going to be meeting up. So things could change like that. So it's going to be really difficult for China to really have a reliable partner with the United States. So they don't want to overestimate how much they can grow. But with their population size and their unemployment rates, it's becoming, they don't really know what's going to happen in the future. So they're trying to like give themselves a buffer.
Yeah, that might be the reason why also the defense spending decreased only by 0.2%. You could say not significant, but when that translates into money,
Yeah.
then we can see the real the real significance of it.
Yeah, and let's also remember that's only like a quarter of America's defense budget.
Yes.
Yes, but like as well, I believe that China has been able to build up its marine way more effectively than the U.S. in the past years. So
The U.S.
there's
has not invested in their Navy whatsoever. There's lots of reporting out there about the U.S. not upgrading their battleships or anything
Mhm.
like that. So that is a big problem for the U.S. They're spending a lot of the spending that goes into it is research and personnel.
yeah, but it's still like something that we'll have to look out because we know that China could face somehow a recession in the coming years. It's something that it's definitely possible. So even though it's very short, cutting the military spending is maybe a first sign that China has reached a certain point that it cannot go further. So we'll have to watch that for sure.
Yeah, and with the focus on the more expensive and higher technology sectors, it's going to be really great for China because then they can actually make more money off of that. Because now they're just selling stuff that are low end, and now they can say, "We've got this really great artificial intelligence. You want to buy it? It's better than yours," or whatever it happens to be. So, yeah, I think if by shifting what their exports are and what they're focusing on, it's going to really help them bring themselves up higher. But it's also going to be a bit of a shock in the meantime.
Well, that's what they are actually already doing, and we're talking about rare earth, but it's exactly what they're doing now with electric cars, because we're seeing that the European market is actually getting bigger flows of a Chinese car and actually well manufactured Chinese cars.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something as well that will impact the way China proceeds with its exports.
Yeah, great. Now we'll continue with our bonus section where we will give you a couple of updates regarding the Iran and the US-Israel conflict going on right now. So, Meredith, where are we?
A lot has happened in the last week since I wrote my initial article that is up on the whygeopoliticsmatter.com website. A lot of things have actually come to fruition. We are spilling over. The U.S. is spilling over into other regions, and so is Israel. But mainly, it's Israel who is started to attack Lebanon and Syria. There have been strikes, and we've also seen strikes that have gone outside of the Middle East into Cyprus and Turkey, which uh, with Turkey is a NATO country, and that was a very scary moment for a lot of people just trying to contain Israel from continuing to bomb Lebanon is becoming a problem. We don't know, and they're also moving into the West Bank, so they're trying to continue this war more so than the U.S. is, it seems, at this point. It also turns out that it was Netanyahu who convinced Trump to get involved. Trump has decided that his wife would be the best representative at the United Nations Security Council to open the session regarding this attack, which is always an interesting idea. And it's just been probably a really scary amount of time seeing everything online, seeing a lot of the misinformation that is going out on there as well. I was looking at a video earlier today where somebody said it was this place was bombed and it had the before and after picture. And when you looked at the picture more closely, you could tell that it was AI generated because there was a car that was sitting in the exact same spot as before. And that car shouldn't have been still there. And just the way that a lot of the AI has been manipulating all the information is making it difficult to understand what's happening with this war. So, the update on Iran, it's not great, but it also doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah. I would say regarding AI and misinformation, there was this video used by the Iranian government of one of the U.S. aircraft carriers being bombed, right?
Mhm.
And in fire with a lot of smoke as well, like trying to tell people, hey, here's what we did. This is our level. But in reality, well, nothing happened. So, yeah, there's a good point there in misinformation. I would say recently the situation has also, like, if we have a overview, the attacks started targeting military infrastructure, but I think it has been moving more towards the
Civilian side,
civilian
exactly.
side.
Y
Yeah.
Yeah, the hotel in, Dubai that was hit, that was, I mean, real civilians
Hmm.
are actually getting hurt in this now, it's not just, um, military bases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oil
I've
plants. Oh, sorry. Continue.
oh, I've seen as well that it was probably in Dubai. The airport was targeted
Hmm.
by drones. So, and at the same time, Iran is um, very complicated because there's a lot of international bases in the region. I know that France, but also the US, Spain has some, but refused to give it the
Hmm.
access to the US, for example. So can involve a lot more persons and a lot more countries in all that. I know that France, for example, rerouted its aircraft carrier towards the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
complicated.
And in the last, I would say, 20, 48 to 24 hours, there's been a rumor going on of Trump talking to Kurdish leaders.
Yeah, I read
Uh-huh.
about that too, and that is a real problem because he has the US in general has said that they supported the Kurds, and then they pull the rug out from underneath of them. So for to empower them is would be a good idea, but like I don't think they would ever trust the United States, or they certainly don't trust Israel because of what they've been doing over the last couple of years in Gaza. So a lot of it is just having that trust there to be able to support people is a real problem.
Yeah. But the fact that there's even that rumor going around, it's very telling because it means that airstrikes or missile strikes are not going to be enough in the long run to achieve what the US wants, and that there's that idea of maybe having maybe not boots on the ground, not American boots, but some kind of land offensive. And at this point, I am not very positive about it, and I'm going to say that we will get to that point eventually.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in Iraq in the 90s. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
realized that they couldn't do it just by air. They had to actually put boots on the ground. And that's why George H.W. Bush wasn't reelected again, because he sent in soldiers. So, like, it is something that is a political issue that the Americans don't want their people in combat anymore. They're done with that. His base of people are really not interested in that either. A lot of them are melting down about it. So it's a serious issue that he will not put American lives on the line, but he is willing to throw like any other life under the line so that he can get political points because of the upcoming midterm elections.
Yeah, there's even a possibility that the UN would start a new defensive operation just to defend the civilians there. But at the same time, I'm not really sure that it would go through the UN.
It would take too much time to get something like that organized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything can change between today and tomorrow and the next couple of days, so we'll see where we're at by the time this video gets published. But thank you both so much for your briefings, for your opinions, and thank you everyone who is listening to us for staying until now. And I'll see you in the third episode of Why Geopolitics Matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And where can they find us, Meredith?
You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and watch us on YouTube.
For more articles on why geopolitics matters, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at whygeopoliticsmatter.com.